Luke was just a farmer. He never thought of himself as special or important. He lived on a small planet that was now ruled by aliens. The aliens came to this world a few years ago and made new rules. They were much stronger and taller than humans. They had 4 arms, shiny purple and blue skin, and eyes that could see in the dark. They brought big machines and heavy tanks that scared many people in the village, but for Luke, each day was the same. He woke up early, worked in the fields, and tried to grow enough food for his family and neighbors. Luke had a wife named Megan. She was kind and always tried to see the good in people. They had a young son named Ethan who liked to run in the fields and watch the birds. Life was not easy, but they had each other. Every day the sound of alien machines echoed in the sky. The aliens did not work in the fields or care about the crops. They only wanted to make sure the humans followed their rules. One afternoon, the sky was clear and the sun was warm on the fields. Luke and Megan were working together, picking vegetables and pulling weeds. Ethan was playing with his friends near the road that led to the village. Suddenly, the ground shook. A heavy tank rolled down the path, kicking up dust and flattening some of the crops near the road. 4 alien soldiers were riding on top. They were laughing and making loud jokes. In their own language, the children ran to the side of the road to watch. Alien soldiers often came to the village to show their power and make fun of the humans. Sometimes they would lift big stones with their strong arms or show off their laser guns. Most humans stayed away from them, but the children were always curious. The soldiers jumped down from the tank and walked over to the group of children. One of the aliens picked up a large rock with one hand and tossed it into the field. The children's eyes grew wide. Another alien pointed at Ethan and said something in a mocking tone. Luke heard the laughter and wiped his forehead with his sleeve. He did not like it when the aliens picked on the children, but there was nothing he could do. They were the ones in charge. The biggest alien, whose name was Crix, walked up to Ethan and put his hand on his shoulder. Crix spoke with a booming voice and said, "You are a farmer's son. Can you lift this rock like I did?" The other soldiers laughed, and one of them clapped Crix on the back. Ethan looked at the rock and then at his father. He was small for his age, with thin arms and messy brown hair. He bent down and tried to pick up the rock, but it did not move at all. The soldiers laughed louder. One of them said, "Humans are so weak. Even their children are helpless." Ethan's face turned red and he looked down at the ground. Luke walked over and put his hand on Ethan's shoulder. He smiled softly and said, "It's all right, son. You did your best." The alien soldiers were not satisfied. They pointed at Luke and started making fun of him. "Look at the human farmer," one said. "His skin is so pale and his arms are so thin. He could not lift a feather." Megan walked over to stand next to Luke and Ethan. She looked at the aliens with calm eyes and said, "We may not be strong like you, but we take care of each other. That is what matters to us." The soldiers rolled their eyes and turned away. But their leader, Crix, kept watching Luke. He wanted to see if the human would get angry or fight back. But Luke just stood quietly with his family. After a few minutes, the soldiers climbed back onto the tank. Crix shouted, "Let's show these humans what real strength looks like." The tank's engine roared and the heavy machine drove in. Circles around the field, flattening rows of vegetables and leaving deep tracks in the soil. Luke watched as his hard work was destroyed, but he did not shout or cry. He only shook his head and picked up the broken plants. The children watched with wide eyes as the tank spun around and stopped near the edge of the field. The soldiers jumped down again and started lifting more heavy things, trying to impress the children and scare the villagers. Some villagers came to the edge of the field to see what was happening. They did not speak, but their faces showed sadness and fear. Megan knelt down next to Ethan and brushed the dust from his hair. "Don't listen to them," she said softly. "Being kind and brave is more important than being strong." Ethan nodded, but he still looked upset. Luke looked at his wife and son and then at the field, which was now full of deep ruts and broken plants. He took a deep breath and picked up his tools. He knew he could fix the field. He always did. He believed that hard work and patience were better than showing off strength. But deep inside, he wished the aliens would see humans for more than just weakness. As the sun began to set, the soldiers finally grew bored and drove their tank back toward the village square. The children wandered home, talking about the aliens and their powerful machines. Megan and Luke finished picking what vegetables they could save, and Ethan helped carry the baskets. When they got home, they washed their hands and sat down to eat dinner together. That night, as they sat at the small kitchen table, Luke looked at his family and smiled. "No matter what happens," he said, "we stay together. We help each other." Megan smiled back and squeezed his hand. Ethan nodded and promised to work even harder in the fields. None of them knew that soon something would happen that would change how everyone, humans and aliens, saw Luke, the quiet farmer. But for now, they were just happy to be safe together. The next day started just like any other. Luke woke up before the sun, stepped outside, and took a deep breath of cool air. The ground was still damp from the morning dew, and he could see his breath in the air. He picked up his old shovel and walked to the field. Megan and Ethan were already awake, too. Megan was making breakfast in their small kitchen, and Ethan was packing some bread and fruit in a basket to take to the field. Luke did not talk much about what happened the day before. He could see that Ethan was still thinking about it. The boy was quieter than usual. Megan tried to make him laugh, but Ethan only gave a small smile. As they walked out to the field, Ethan asked, "Dad, do you think I'll ever be strong like them?" Luke smiled and put his hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You don't have to be strong like them. You just have to be strong in your own way." The family worked together for hours, trying to fix what the tank had broken. Megan planted new seeds in the rows that were flattened, and Luke used his shovel to fix the deep ruts in the dirt. Ethan gathered the pieces of broken plants and put them in a pile. Sometimes they had to stop and rest because the sun was getting hotter. Around midday, the village became noisy again. The same group of alien soldiers came back, riding in their big tank. This time, they brought more soldiers, and some alien children came with them. The villagers gathered around, curious and a little afraid. The alien children were laughing and running around. They were different from human children. They had longer arms, shiny blue skin, and bright eyes, but they smiled just the same. The soldiers began to show off their strength again. One soldier lifted a heavy metal box above his head. Another one picked up a huge log and threw it across the field. The human children clapped and cheered, but some looked nervous, remembering how the soldiers made fun of Ethan the day before. Then Crix, the biggest and strongest soldier, called out to the human children, "Come here and try to lift this." He placed a heavy piece of alien equipment on the ground. It was shiny and strange-looking, made of a metal that humans did not have. "If any of you can lift this, I will give you a prize," he said with a grin. The human children looked at each other. Some were scared, but one or two tried to lift the metal piece. Each one failed. Even Ethan tried again. He pushed and pulled, but the equipment did not move at all. The alien children laughed and pointed. Crick said loudly, "See? Humans are weak. They can never be as strong as us." Luke watched from the edge of the field. He wanted to step in, but Megan touched his arm. "Let Ethan be," she whispered. "He needs to learn for himself." Ethan walked back to his parents, looking sad but not angry. Luke knelt beside him. "You tried your best. That is all anyone can do," he said. Ethan nodded but looked down at the ground. The alien soldiers did not stop with the children. They walked around the village, making jokes and picking up things to show how strong they were. They lifted barrels, benches, and even a cart, carrying them above their heads. Some villagers tried to laugh with the soldiers, hoping to avoid trouble, but most just stayed quiet. The soldiers liked to see people scared or embarrassed. Soon, the aliens became bored and drove their tank to the side of the field. They parked it next to the well, where a group of human and alien children were playing. The ground shook as the tank stopped. The alien leader shouted something in their own language, and the soldiers gathered around to eat their lunch. The children did not care about the soldiers anymore. They chased each other around the tank, playing games. One of the alien children, a little girl named Lyra, was braver than the others. She tried to climb on the side of the tank to see inside. Ethan watched her and smiled. He remembered how the aliens had laughed at him, but he did not feel angry at Lyra. Suddenly, Lyra lost her balance. She slipped and fell, landing under the side of the tank. Her foot got stuck in a gap between the heavy metal and the ground. She screamed, and all the children stopped playing. The alien soldiers jumped up and rushed to the tank. Lyra's mother ran to her daughter, crying and calling her name. The villagers watched in shock. The soldiers tried to lift the tank, but it was too heavy, even for them. They pushed and pulled, but it did not move. The tank was built for war, made of the strongest metal the aliens had. The leader shouted for help, but nothing worked. Lyra cried louder, and her mother's voice grew desperate. Luke could not just stand and watch. He put down his shovel and walked quickly to the tank. Megan and Ethan followed behind him. The alien soldiers looked at Luke and laughed. "What do you think you can do?" one of them said. "This is not a job for a weak human." Luke did not answer. He looked at Lyra, who was scared and crying. He knelt beside her and spoke softly. "It's okay, I'm here. I'll help you," he told Ethan to hold Lyra's hand and keep her calm. The other villagers gathered around, whispering, and wondering if Luke had lost his mind. The soldiers moved aside, still smiling and shaking their heads. Megan looked at Luke, worry in her eyes, but Luke just nodded at her, showing he would try. He studied the tank, searching for the best place to lift it. He wiped his hands on his pants and placed both hands under the heavy metal. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and got ready to do something no one thought was possible. The moment was quiet. Everyone was watching. The only sound was Lyra's crying and the wind moving through the fields. Luke opened his eyes, gripped the tank, and pushed with all his strength. Luke felt the rough metal under his fingers. He bent his knees, set his feet firmly on the ground, and lifted with all the strength he had. At first, the tank did not move. The weight was heavy and the machine was built to be strong. The alien soldiers laughed, sure that a human farmer could not lift such a thing. Crix, the leader, crossed his arms and said loudly, "Give up, human. You cannot do it." But Luke did not listen. He took a deep breath and pushed harder. His muscles strained and his face turned red, but slowly the tank began to shift. The heavy metal groaned as it moved just a few inches off the ground. The soldiers' laughter stopped. The villagers gasped in surprise. Even the alien children stood still, watching closely. Lyra's mother cried tears of hope. "Hold on, Lyra," she whispered. "Help is here." Luke kept pushing. The tank lifted a little higher. The small gap under the tank grew wide enough for Ethan and a few other villagers to reach under and pull Lyra free. The child was trembling, but she was safe. The villagers cheered, and Megan smiled proudly. The alien soldiers stared at Luke in shock. Crix's mouth was open, unable to say anything. The leader looked at his soldiers and then back at the human. "How did you do that?" he asked quietly. Luke wiped the sweat from his brow and said, "I did what I had to do to save a child." Strength is not just about muscles, it is about heart. The villagers gathered around Luke, praising him for his bravery. Ethan hugged his father tightly, his eyes shining with pride. Lyra's mother thanked Luke over and over. The alien children, who had once laughed at the humans, now looked at them with respect. Crix stepped forward. He reached out his hand to Luke. "You have shown us that humans are stronger than we thought," he said. "We will no longer mock you." Luke shook Crix's hand. "We all can learn from each other," he said. From that day on, the alien soldiers changed their behavior. They stopped mocking the humans and began to treat them with respect. The village became a place where humans and aliens worked together and helped each other. Luke's act of courage brought hope to everyone. The quiet farmer had shown that even the smallest person can make a big difference. And the village, once full of fear and laughter at their expense, became a symbol of strength and friendship. After that day, the village felt different. The alien soldiers still visited, but their laughter was quieter. They no longer teased the children or crushed the fields with their tanks. Instead, some of them helped with small jobs or brought gifts. The villagers were surprised but happy. Luke's bravery had changed many minds. Luke continued his work on the farm. Every morning, he woke early and worked hard to repair the damaged fields. Megan helped too, planting new seeds and watering the crops. Ethan was excited to be outside, again, playing and learning from his father. He wanted to be strong like Luke, but also kind and brave. One morning, as Luke was fixing a broken fence, Crix approached him. The alien leader looked serious but friendly. "Luke," he said, "I want to learn from you. You are strong, but you also have something we lack. Can you teach me?" Luke smiled and nodded. Of course, strength is more than power. It is patience, kindness, and courage. Crix stayed in the village for many days. He helped with the work and listened to the villagers' stories. Slowly, the two different peoples began to understand each other better. The alien soldiers stopped seeing humans as weak. They saw them as friends. One afternoon, Ethan ran to Luke, holding a small flower. "Dad, look what I found," he said. Happily, Luke smiled and took the flower. "That's beautiful, Ethan, just like you." The village children, both human and alien, played together now. They shared games, stories, and laughter. The walls between them were breaking down, but not everyone was happy. Some aliens from other places thought the humans should stay weak and scared. They warned Crix to stop helping them. Crix did not listen. He believed in what Luke had shown him. One day, a group of alien soldiers came to the village with angry faces. They wanted to take control back. The villagers were scared. Luke stood in front of them. "We do not want war," he said calmly, "but we will protect our home." The aliens saw Luke's courage and strength. They realized the humans were not afraid anymore. Slowly, they backed away and left the village in peace. The village stayed safe because of Luke's bravery and kindness. The farmers grew more food, and the children laughed without fear. The aliens and humans lived together, learning from each other. Luke looked at his family and friends and knew that they had built something strong. Not just a farm, but a new future where everyone could be free and proud. The village grew stronger and happier as time passed. Humans and aliens worked side by side in the fields, sharing tools and ideas. The crops were better than before, and the children played without fear. The old worries of the past began to fade. Luke was proud of what the village had become. Every morning, he walked through the fields, checking the plants and helping wherever he could. Megan and Ethan joined him, and sometimes Crix came too. The alien leader had become a good friend. He wanted to learn more about farming and about humans. One day, a message arrived from a nearby alien city. It said that other alien leaders wanted to visit the village. They were curious about the peace and friendship between humans and aliens. Luke knew this was a chance to show the world what humans could do. The day of the visitors came. The village prepared for the guests. The streets were clean and the fields were full of fresh vegetables. The children made decorations from flowers and leaves. Luke stood with Megan and Ethan, ready to welcome the new guests. When the alien leaders arrived, they looked serious and strong. But Luke saw something else in their eyes, a question, a doubt. They wanted to know if humans were truly as brave and kind as Luke's village showed. Luke greeted them with a firm handshake. "Welcome to our home," he said. "We live together in peace and work hard to build a better future." The alien leaders toured the village. They saw humans and aliens planting seeds, fixing homes, and sharing meals. They watched children play and laugh. Slowly, their faces changed. They saw that humans were not weak or scared. They were strong in many ways. One of the leaders, a tall alien named Zorn, spoke. "Your people have surprised us," he said. "We see strength in your hearts. We want to learn from you." Luke smiled. "We all have something to teach. Strength is not just power. It is kindness, courage, and working together." The visitors stayed for many days. They shared stories, learned farming skills, and joined celebrations. The village became a place of hope and friendship for all, but Luke knew the journey was not over. There would be challenges ahead. Some aliens might still doubt humans. Some humans might feel afraid. But he believed in the future they were building. One evening, Luke sat outside with Megan and Ethan. The stars shone bright above them. Ethan looked up and said, "Dad, I want to be like you." Strong and kind, Luke hugged his son. "You already are," he said. "Always remember to be brave and gentle." Megan smiled and joined them. Together they watched the stars, dreaming of a better world where humans and aliens lived as friends. Months passed and the village continued to grow. Humans and aliens worked and lived together in peace. The farms were full of fresh food, and the children played freely in the fields. The hard work of Luke and the villagers had created a new way of life. Luke often walked through the village, greeting friends and neighbors. He saw families sharing meals and stories. The alien soldiers who once mocked the humans now helped with daily tasks. They built homes, repaired fences, and even helped teach the children. One day, a message arrived from the alien leaders. They wanted to meet Luke and the village leaders in a great hall far away. They wanted to talk about peace and friendship between their worlds. Luke agreed, knowing this could help many people. The journey was long and difficult. Luke, Megan, Ethan, and Crix traveled together on a large ship. Along the way, they talked about the future. Ethan was excited but also a little nervous. Luke told him, "Be proud of who you are and what you have done. Your kindness and courage will help us all." When they arrived at the Great Hall, many alien leaders waited. They were curious about the village and the humans who lived there. Luke spoke calmly and clearly. "We have shown that humans and aliens can live together in peace. We can learn from each other and be stronger as friends." The leaders listened carefully. They asked questions and shared their thoughts. Some were still unsure, but many were moved by Luke's words and the stories of the village. The hall, filled with hope for a better future. After the meeting, Luke and his group returned home. The village welcomed them with cheers and smiles. The people were proud of what Luke had done. He had not only saved a child, but had helped change the hearts of many. Ethan ran to Luke and hugged him. "Dad, I want to keep making the world better," he said. Luke smiled and lifted his son in the air. "You will, Ethan. Together we all." Well, life went on. The village grew stronger every day. Humans and aliens worked side by side, sharing their lives and dreams. Luke looked at his family and friends and felt hope. The quiet farmer had helped build a future where everyone was free, strong, and proud. The stars shone above, and the village slept peacefully. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but Luke knew they could face them together. With kindness, courage, and friendship, anything was possible.